Hello everybody, welcome to a new Arkham Horror, the card game series from Playing Board Games, where we are going to be doing dives into a variety of archetypes that you can build in this game, discussing notable cards, discussing synergies, strategies, as well as providing a deck list of a fully built deck of this archetype. This is kind of it's our first of the series, so it's kind of like it's a work in progress, always growing. We always look for more ideas for how to make this better. So this series will evolve over time, and as always, if you have any suggestions while watching of what would be relevant to you, please let us know in the comments below. It is very helpful for me, at least, to figure out the structure when I'm designing these slides for it. Our first archetype is for the Seeker class, which is Clues Matter. We're going to get to what that means in a second. I'm going to throw the ball to Travis, but first I just want to say that this video is not going to be like an in-depth, we're going to be talking about every single card in the game and if they fit with this archetype, but rather we're going to give you some cards that are very notable that can fit with this, that can then lead you down the path to building this archetype and then hopefully succeeding with this archetype. So Travis, what is the Clues Matter archetype and what is the goal of this archetype while playing Arkham Horror, the card game?
The Clues Matter is cards that care about clues, whether they're how many clues that you have in your possession and whether they're on your location are the big ones. And the goal of this archetype is to ensure that you can access those payoffs regularly by manipulating where the clues are and ensuring you have them in your possession for certain cards and on your location for certain cards. And I just want to expand quickly on what you mentioned before about the purpose of these videos. A lot of the archetypes aren't big enough or like functional enough, diverse enough in their effects to build a deck like entirely of cards from that archetype. Mm-hmm. A couple of them are, but most of them are. It's going to be more about like card packages and how to fit the cards and synergies that these archetypes embody into your decks.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I always just lose my voice right when it gets to one of these videos. But let's start talking first about some, this is going to be called payoffs and support cards, but let's just forget all that and go with a new term. These are notable cards for this archetype. So
yeah, relevant cards, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. So you're going to see a lot of like heavy hitters here that are pretty common. But they all are going to kind of unify around this idea that clues matters for clues on your location or spending your clues that you have. So the first one, pretty straightforward, working a hunch from the core set. Just 2 resources, discover 1 clue at your location. Some of you might be thinking, hey, isn't this just playing the game? Yeah, a lot of these archetypes are going to be things you can do while just playing the games, but they have some special, as we'll see, especially in the next slide of cards, that will care about your clues. So working a hunch, yes, is just playing the game, but you're going to want to be on a location with clues to make it actually function, and it's going to give you clues for your later card effects. Bryn, do you want to take deduction?
Cool. So deduction is gives you an extra book when you're investigating, and you discover an extra clue. Mm-hmm. When you find your clues quickly, you have more control over where they go and what happens to them.
Yeah. Travis, you want to take Art Student?
Yeah, sure. Art Student is just an ally that costs 2. You can't quite see it because of the set thing at the bottom, but it can take 1 heart and 2 horror, takes up your ally slot. When it comes to play, discover clue your location.
Yeah.
Lastly, we got the True Understanding here, which you commit all your skill tests on ability, print out a scenario card, and if this skill test is successful, you discover a clue at your location. Notice one thing that all these cards have in common is they get you a clue without making a test for that clue. Mm-hmm. Like True Understanding, you have to succeed to get the clue, but you're not making a test to get that clue. It's a test that you probably already wanted to pass anyway.
Yeah.
Art Student and Working Hunch get it for free, and Deduction gets it as part of another investigation test. And these are all important because a lot of the cards that care about clues, particularly the ones in your possession, want you to have like more to get bigger bonuses, but also there are some cards that care about the clues on your location, and you have options to put clues from your possession onto your location, which will allow them to stack up. And some of these cards will allow you to get multiples of them at once and just clean that location clean off so you can move on to somewhere else.
Yeah. So some more cards. This is a great example. I've got a plan. So fight. This attack uses your book, and you deal +1 damage for this attack for each clue you have to a maximum of 3 damage. So the more clues you get while you're playing the game through things like deduction and just getting your extra cards, like extra clues through your cards, this is going to end up dealing more damage and making you be able to save yourself from a monster if your goon is busy somewhere else, or if you're playing solo and you wanted to do this Clues Matter archetype, this allows you to fight monsters with the clues that you have in your possession. So it actually does matter. Your clues, they do matter. Dr. William T. Mailson allows you to put when you draw an encounter card, you can exhaust them and place one of your clues on your location, cancel that card, shuffle it back in the encounter deck, and then draw a new card from the top of the encounter deck. So this can stop you from drawing a monster to turn into something else if you do not want to see that. With this whole archetype, getting clues from your locations is super easy, and there's cards that we're about to get to for Preposterous Sketches, for an example, that only work if there are clues on your location. So this would be a way for you to not only negate an effect from the game, you still have to draw a card so it doesn't negate it completely, but then also use that negation to draw 3 cards if there were no clues on your location, and then you can just easily snatch that clue up with an art student working a hunch or even just an investigate action. Bryn, you played Preposterous Sketches a bunch today. Why don't you talk about that guy?
So part of this is the idea that putting a clue back on your location isn't always entirely a cost. Preposterous Sketches is a solid example for this, where we can only play it if there is a clue on our location, and we get to draw 3 cards. It's fairly solid, but sometimes you can't play it because like maybe there isn't a clue on your location. But with the put a clue back on your location effects, you can control where that is. Make them much easier to play with.
It looks like I grabbed the... so for Forewarned, never mind. No, ignore what I was going to say. I thought I grabbed the Return to one, but I did not. When you draw a non-weakness treachery card, you can place one of your clues on your location, then cancel that card's revelation effect. It's like Dr. William T. Mailson, but only for revelation effects, and it just gets rid of it completely. But it has the same sort of goal, stopping the game and placing one of your clues back on your location, which with this archetype is not too big of an issue. And it costs 0.
Sometimes it's even beneficial, like as Brent was mentioning with the Preposterous Sketches, dump it back in your location, boom, all of a sudden you can play Preposterous Sketches.
Travis, why don't you take some of the ones on here, and you stop, and then I'll swoop in and grab what you don't.
Yeah, we got Logical Reasoning as the first one. This one you have to have a clue to play it at all, which shouldn't be too bad. 2 to play, and then you choose an investigator your location. That investigator either heals 2 or discards a terror card from their threat area. This card is just a really solid... I don't think anyone's going to try and tell this card is like great, but it's a very solid support card, especially if you and a monster fighter, someone like Silas or many of the Guardians are working together, people who have trouble making brain tests or managing their horror score. You can heal it, you can get rid of that frozen fear from their threat area, you can commit to a rotting remains or something like that might give them. It's a very flexible card, quite a few uses. The other one, next one here from the Forgotten Age, is Quick Study. This is one of the really big ones for the archetype, where you can put one of your clues in your location and exhaust it to get +3 skill value for the skill test, which I think is a really cool. It's a card I'm actually surprised I haven't played with yet, but it's a really cool interaction where you can trade one. So there's lots of neat things you can do with this, where you can put a clue on your location to buff up your whatever score if it's particularly low for like a Grasping Hands, and then commit your True Understanding to the test as well, and boom, you get to pass, get your clue back, it's all free. Your Rex Murphy, you just slap your clue on your location, and then you really want to succeed this investigation test, you get +3 to test, the quote unquote, for free.
Yeah, it's even kind of like even like you have an upgraded deduction, you could, because that gets 2 clues from your location, right? It's like 2 extra. Yeah,
and you have to succeed by 2 or more.
Yeah, and so this, you get to place a clue, so now there's 3 because if you get 2 extra, and then you don't actually lose value from your deduction of only grabbing that, and you get the +3, the +2. It's a lot of neat tricks that can happen there.
I'm pumped to play this with the Innsmouth girl, the green
Amanda
one.
Sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not Amanda Sharp, the green one.
Oh, Trish Scarborough.
Yeah, because she gets clues back for free, and then she can get +3 to like any skill value for this to mitigate her 2 brain.
Yeah, definitely. Make it so you have 5 brain. You're not a weak-brained rogue character. Inquiring Mind is another one where it's only relevant if there is a clue on your location, and later in the game you could draw an Inquiring Mind and be like, oh dang, this does nothing. But wait, I have a quick study in play. I can now get +5 for a test I really want to pass, essentially. So just one of those cards that cares about clues being on locations, and the more control you have over that, the better you'll succeed with your archetype. And then lastly, Truth from Fiction, not Friction. I read this one, so I know what it does now.
Just in the library, rubbing the pages together.
Yeah, it's so real and true. But this is another one that you can only play if there's a clue on your location, but you get to place 2 secrets on an asset you control. This is when we're going to get to the next slide. Truth from Fiction is very relevant because it's kind of like a cross between the archetypes. And as Travis was saying, there's very little, like, there's a few archetypes where you can build an entire deck around them, but a lot of archetypes are just packages that you, like, slot into your decks, because, like, your decks can be built of, like, 2 to 3 archetypes that synergize, and Truth from Fiction is going to synergize with another archetype that we're going to release in a future video. My hope with this series is, if I remember to, in the description, put when we release an archetype that something synergizes with, put that video in the description. If you're watching this video and the Secrets Matter archetype is out and this is not in the description, please let me know and I will add it. So let's get to what this synergizes with, this archetype. Travis, I'll let you take this one and we'll chime in when we have things to say.
All right, well, the 3 big ones for me are, yes, itself and playing the game. The cards put clues on location, you care about having them. You know, it's like all there. There's cards that get you extra clues if you succeed tests or not, and there's cards that make you better succeeding tests by putting clues in your location, and there's cards that care about you having clues in your location. It's great. Playing the game, because, like, you gotta have the clues to win the game. That's the way the game is.
Yeah, this one is just very simple.
If you're watching this video, you should figure that out by now.
Yeah, this one's, like, pretty simple. It's just it synergizes a lot just with the concept of the game. Like, clues matter. Like, for everybody, everyone wants clues. You just benefit from it while building with it.
Some of the other archetypes that might come up in future videos that or just like kind of classes of cards, not necessarily archetypes. But there's secrets. Truth from Fiction is a popular include in secret-based decks, obviously. Mm-hmm. And it relies on you having clues, like only one, which shouldn't be too difficult, but the need is still there. There's quite a few insights in the packages of cards that care about how many clues you have. And finally, the other one that I think is fairly relevant is movement, or like the location you're on matters, where you can use your cards like Art Student or Working a Hunch to get clues for free off high shroud locations. Mm-hmm. And then when you move over to, you can like move with a Pathfinder or just a move action or a shortcut, something like that, to a low shroud location to dump those clues off for your quick studies or for your forewarns or whatever, and then they're easy to get back.
Heck yeah. Well, let's look at a deck.
To think about.
Let's look at a deck you built, Travis. I will say, if you don't know these cards, because we're not going to be putting pictures of them and talking about them in detail, in the link down in the description below, there will be a link to this deck list on ArkhamDB where you can look at all the cards in greater detail. So, Travis, you built all the decks for this series. Yeah. I would love to know what's the plan with this one. So this is like a big finished XP-filled deck with Rex Murphy for the Clues Matter archetype.
Yeah, I'm gonna go. Like, my general idea for this one was to. I wanted to showcase some finished decks and like some of the cool cards you could play in them. What a deck with a reasonable amount of experience would look like, between like 25 to 35, somewhere in there. 35 obviously being a little bit on the high side of things. And there's lots of cards in here that you don't necessarily need to upgrade. Like, you don't need the upgrade deductions. You don't need the upgrade. I've got plans, but I figured why not throw in all the fixins while we're doing it. And I also wanted to look at, for some of the archetypes, investigators who may not be the obvious choice for those ones. Rex probably is the obvious choice for this one. But nonetheless, here we've got 2 of our untranslated cards. The Dream Diary is intended to be the 4 Shroud one, the Dreams of an Explorer, where Essence the Dream gets 2 extra symbols if you're a location with at least 4 Shrouds. That way you don't have to care so much about what location you're dumping your clues on. And also, like, just pumping up that book score so Rex can get his extra clues. And the Archaic List is the Guiding Stones one, where you investigate with it by spending a charge, and for every 2 points you succeed by, you get an extra additional clue. So Rex can just really tear through those high clue locations. You're playing with 4 players, and a location shows up with 3 Shroud and 2 clues per person, 8 clues. Like, Rex will get through it in an action or 2.
Yeah.
Right. Like Dr. William T. Nelson is here as a feature to. You can mitigate whatever the deck kind of throws at you, and you don't care about putting a clue down. It's kind of a non-issue. Same thing with the Forewarned, because you just get so many clues so fast.
Yeah.
Quick Studies, similar thing. As I mentioned earlier in the video, you put the clue down, you get +3, you get the clue back. Easy. Yeah, and then there's like a Singleton Miser's copy of Logical Reasoning 4. It's just a little bit more flexible than the other one, than the level 0 version. Got the True Understandings we talked about. We've got Upgrade. I've got plans for dealing with monsters should that come up. Weighing It, I think, is actually a really good off-color card for Rex. Playing it from your discard pile, you just -1 Shroud, and if you succeed by at least 2, you suck up 3 clues. It's a great deal.
That seems pretty sick.
Yep. Guts made it in because
it's
not
Guts.
failing brain test is nice. Rex's Search for the Truth is also, I think this was probably the deciding factor of which investigator I was going for. Search for Truth lets you draw a card for each clue you have, up to 5.
His clues literally matter very much for his special, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and other than that, it's just like kind of goodish cards. You guys got any thoughts on the deck?
One thing I really like about, and this series is going to have, these decks aren't exactly conventional. For example, Dr. William T. Mailson is here, while whose name I can now only remember.
Milan Christopher.
Yes, Dr. Milan Christopher, not fat and fatty. That is here instead of that. So the St. Hubert's Key does nice to help with that stat to boost that up as well. Otherwise, this archetype is pretty simple and straightforward. This is like an archetype that's the easiest to understand as a new player, because you're just going to be it doesn't have that hurdle where you're kind of at the beginning you're but putting my clues down is bad, but you'll soon learn. This will kind of teach you kind of that how this game works, where sometimes it's okay to do things that might seem bad because you get such a good benefit out of it. And then Rex Murphy, even though he is the boring and obvious choice, he is the best at this archetype, so I think he'll really shine here with this deck.
This is a boring and obvious archetype anyway, so.
Exactly. Bryn, what about you? Any thoughts?
Nothing in particular.
Sounds good. All right.
Huh.
Is this a deck you would play, Bryn?
No.
Why not?
I've played Rex Murphy. I don't need to do it again.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's the core part of it to me.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Otherwise, I think it's mostly pretty good. I'm not a fan of the put clues back on my location archetype just in general. I understand that it can be good.
But when you're cursed like you, and then you do it.
Yeah, I'll put a clue down to get +3 to my test and commit a deduction 2, and then I'll draw the red token.
Yeah.
And I'm just oh, cool.
And that's honestly actually what's going to be most
I'll lose.
exciting about this series is we have, I think Travis has, I think he said 33 archetypes. So
Something like that.
There's a lot of there's a lot of variance as well, like to determine like what you like, because every person plays this game different and they enjoy different things. So on that note, I'll say it right here. What archetype do you want to see next? I have a big list I'll be drawing from in a general structure, but if there's enough people who say I want to see this, that would be great. And then in addition, there might be one that you do that Travis will be like, for some, like this one somehow made it through the cracks. I highly doubt it because he has like literally everything. But
yeah, there's a couple that are a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. Yeah, as I was saving them, I was like, yeah, okay, that works, but we'll talk about it. We are always looking for more things to talk about this game. If you like this kind of series, you want to see more, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already, in addition to all of our other awesome Arkham Horror content. And then, as I said, check the description for the deck list if you want to look at the cards in detail. And then kind of, I think looking at like a final deck list can sometimes help with reverse engineering to level 0. However, the majority of the cards we gave you for the notable and relevant cards are level 0, so it's easy to kind of build that as your foundation and go with it. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you guys next week for another Archetype video. Have a good one, and as always, GG's.